My name is
You
Robert
both look so
Hayes, and I'm
lovely
47
today.
years old.
Thanks, Dad.
Life has
And
taught me
you,
more
my dear?
lessons than I
I
ever
feel
expected
happy.
to learn, especially about what truly matters. 5 years ago, my world turned upside down when my wife Jennifer left me. We'd been married for 8 years, and I thought we were building something solid together. But she wanted a different life, one without the responsibilities of family. When she walked out that door, she didn't just leave me. She left our 3 beautiful daughters, Emma, Lily, and Sophie. They were only 3 years old then, triplets with matching blonde curls and eyes full of questions. I didn't know how to answer. Those first months were the hardest of my life. I worked as a high school history teacher, a job I loved but one that barely covered our expenses. Suddenly, I was washing tiny dresses at midnight, learning to braid hair through tutorial videos, and figuring out how to make 3 packed lunches before dawn. Some nights, after the girls finally fell asleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table with bills spread out before me, wondering how I'd make it all work. But children have a way of teaching you about resilience. Emma, Lily, and Sophie gave me purpose. Their laughter became my anchor. Their small victories, like tying their own shoes or reading their first words, reminded me that beauty exists even in difficult circumstances. The community around us helped more than they'll ever know. Mrs. Patterson, our elderly neighbor, would watch the girls when I had parent-teacher conferences. The staff at their elementary school showed such patience and kindness, and my sister Carol drove 3 hours every other weekend just to give me a break and spend time with her nieces. Still, there were lonely moments. Moments when I felt the weight of doing it all alone. Moments when I wondered if I'd ever find companionship again, or if that chapter of my life had closed for good. Then came the invitation to my 25th high school reunion. It arrived in a cream-colored envelope, formal and nostalgic. Part of me wanted to throw it away. What would I say to people I hadn't seen in decades? How would I explain my life? But the girls found it on the counter and got excited about the idea of me going to a party. Emma said I deserved to have fun. How could I argue with that wisdom from an 8-year-old? So I accepted. I borrowed a decent suit from my brother-in-law and arranged for Carol to stay with the girls that Saturday evening. As I drove to the hotel where the reunion was being held, my hands gripped the steering wheel a little too tightly. The venue was beautiful, all warm lighting and elegant decorations. Through the windows, I could see well-dressed people already mingling inside. I almost turned the car around, but something made me park and walk through those doors. The ballroom was exactly as you'd imagine, round tables with white linens, a bar in the corner, music playing softly in the background. Name tags were arranged alphabetically on a table near the entrance. I found mine and stuck it to my lapel, feeling oddly like a student again. That's when I saw her, Jennifer, my ex-wife, standing near the center of the room in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She looked different, polished in a way she never had when we were together. And beside her stood a man in an expensive suit, his hand resting possessively on her back. My stomach tightened, but I told myself I could handle this. I was here to reconnect with old friends, to remember who I was before life got complicated. I could be civil. I made my way to the bar and ordered a soda. I'd stopped drinking years ago, needing to stay sharp for the girls. As I waited, someone clapped me on the shoulder. It was David Morrison, who'd sat behind me in chemistry class. We talked for a while about jobs and families, and it felt good to laugh about old times. But then Jennifer spotted me. I watched her whisper something to the man beside her, and they both looked my way. She started walking toward me, and I braced myself. "Robert," she said, her voice carrying that same tone I remembered, the one that could cut without raising volume. "I didn't expect to see you here." "It's my reunion too," I replied evenly. "How have you been, Jennifer?" "Wonderful, actually." She gestured to the man who'd followed her over. "This is Gregory Ashton, my fiancé." Gregory extended his hand, and I shook it. His grip was firm, almost aggressive. "Nice to meet you," I said. Jennifer's eyes gleamed with something. I recognized the need to establish superiority. "Gregory is in real estate development. Very successful. We just bought a home in Westchester." "That's nice," I said. "I'm happy for you both." But she wasn't done. "And what about you, Robert? Still teaching? Still living in that same little house?" The words stung more than I wanted to admit. "Yes, still teaching. It's meaningful work. And yes, the girls and I are still in the house. It's home." "The girls?" She said it like she was tasting something sour. How are they? They're wonderful. Smart, kind, full of life. They're the best thing that ever happened to me. Jennifer laughed, a sharp sound. Still playing the martyr, I see. Poor Robert, raising 3 kids all alone. Do you tell everyone that story? I felt heat rise to my face. Around us, conversations had started to quiet. People were noticing. I'm not playing anything, Jennifer. I'm just living my life and taking care of our daughters. Our daughters, she repeated mockingly. Let's be honest, Robert. You were never cut out for this. You're struggling, barely making ends meet, working a job with no future. Those girls would have been better off if you'd let them go to someone who could actually provide for them. The words hit like physical blows. My throat tightened. I could feel eyes on us now, the whole room watching this scene unfold. That's enough, I said quietly. But Gregory stepped forward, emboldened by Jennifer's cruelty. She has a point. What kind of life can you give 3 kids on a teacher's salary? They deserve better than secondhand clothes and cheap vacations. I wanted to defend myself, to explain that my daughters had love and stability and everything that actually mattered. But the words wouldn't come. I was too hurt, too exposed. I'd known coming here was a mistake. Just as I was about to excuse myself, to leave with what little dignity I had left, a woman's voice cut through the tension. I disagree completely. Everyone turned. A woman in an elegant red dress stood a few feet away. She was striking, with dark hair and intelligent eyes. But what caught my attention was the warmth in her expression, the genuine kindness. Excuse me? Jennifer said, clearly annoyed at the interruption. The woman stepped closer. I said I disagree. I've been listening to this conversation, and I think your perspective is entirely wrong. And who are you? Gregory demanded. My name is Margaret Sullivan, and I happen to believe that Robert is doing something extraordinary. I blinked, confused. I'd never seen this woman before in my life. Margaret turned to me with a gentle smile. You're raising 3 daughters on your own, working as a teacher, one of the most important professions there is. You're showing up every day, making sacrifices, putting their needs before your own. That's not martyrdom. That's love. That's heroism. Jennifer scoffed. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Margaret's voice remained calm but firm. I know that children don't measure their worth by the size of their house or the price of their clothes. They measure it by whether they feel loved, safe, and valued. And something tells me Robert's daughters have all of that in abundance. I felt something crack open inside me. This stranger was defending me with more conviction than I'd defended myself. This is ridiculous, Jennifer said, but her confidence was wavering. Margaret continued, addressing the small crowd that had gathered. I've built a career understanding what makes people successful, what makes families strong. And it's never about money or status. It's about character. It's about showing up even when it's hard. It's about teaching children by example what love looks like. She looked at Jennifer and Gregory with something close to pity. You walked away from 3 little girls who needed their mother. That says everything about your character. And you, she nodded toward Gregory, you're standing here mocking a man for being a devoted father. That says everything about yours? The silence in the room was complete now. Jennifer's face had gone pale and Gregory looked uncomfortable. Margaret turned back to me. I'm sorry to intrude, Robert, but I couldn't stand by and let them diminish what you're doing. Your daughters are lucky to have you. Before I could respond, she walked away, back toward a table near the windows. I stood there stunned. As the crowd slowly dispersed and conversations resumed, Jennifer and Gregory retreated without another word to me. David Morrison appeared at my elbow. Well, that was something, he said with a grin. Who was that woman? I have no idea, I admitted. You should probably thank her. He was right. I made my way across the room to where Margaret sat alone at a table, looking out at the city lights through the tall windows. As I approached, she glanced up and smiled. Mind if I join you? I asked. Please do. I sat down, suddenly nervous. Thank you. For what you said back there, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she said simply. I can't stand bullies. And I especially can't stand people who mock others for being good parents. Still, you don't even know me. She tilted her head, studying me. I know enough. I know you came to this reunion even though it probably made you anxious. I know you stood there and took abuse from your ex-wife without retaliating. I know you spoke about your daughters with pride and love. That tells me what kind of person you are. We talked for a while. I learned that Margaret had grown up in our town, but had gone to a different high school. She was here because her company had sponsored the reunion. They sponsored events at various venues, and she liked supporting the community. She asked about my daughters, and I found myself telling her stories about Emma's love of books, Lily's talent for drawing, Sophie's fearless curiosity. They sound wonderful, Margaret said. You should bring them to the park tomorrow. Sterling Park, do you know it? Of course. We go there sometimes. I'll be there around noon feeding the ducks. If you and the girls happen by, I'd love to meet them. It was a strange invitation, but something about Margaret made me trust her. We might do that, I said. The rest of the reunion passed quietly. I talked with a few more old classmates, but my mind kept drifting to the woman in the red dress who'd stood up for me. When I finally headed home that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I told the girls we were going to the park. They were thrilled. We packed sandwiches and fruit, and I made sure they wore their nice dresses, the ones Carol had bought them for Easter. Emma chose pink, Lily lavender, and Sophie light blue. The park was beautiful that Sunday. Families spread out on blankets, children played on swings, and the pond sparkled in the afternoon sun. We found Margaret right where she said she'd be, sitting on a bench near the water with a bag of breadcrumbs. "Mr. Hayes," she called out with a warm smile. "And these must be your daughters." The girls were shy at first, hiding behind my legs. But Margaret had a gift with children. She invited them to help feed the ducks. And soon they were giggling and tossing bread into the water, delighted when the ducks came waddling over. "They're beautiful," Margaret said to me. "You should be very proud." "I am, every day." We sat on the bench while the girls played nearby, always in sight. Margaret told me more about herself. She'd started a technology company 15 years ago, something to do with software solutions for businesses. It had grown beyond her expectations. "I never married," she said. "Never had children of my own. I poured everything into building something meaningful. But sometimes I wonder what I missed." "It's not too late," I offered. She smiled. "Perhaps not. But watching you with your daughters, seeing that bond, it reminds me what really matters." Over the next few weeks, Margaret became part of our lives in the most natural way. She'd stop by the park when we were there, always with some small gift for the girls, a book, a box of colored pencils, a kite. She joined us for pizza one evening, and the girls adored her. She listened to their stories with genuine interest and treated them with respect, never talking down to them. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed, Margaret and I sat on my front porch with cups of tea. The neighborhood was quiet, stars visible despite the streetlights. "I need to tell you something," Margaret said, "about why I spoke up for you at the reunion. You said you couldn't stand bullies." "That's true, but there's more." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I lost my brother 10 years ago. He was a single father, too. His wife had left him with 2 young sons. He struggled just like you do, worked 2 jobs, sacrificed everything for those boys." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "He died in a car accident. Exhausted from working so hard, he fell asleep at the wheel." Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain beneath it. "After he died, I raised his sons. They're grown now, successful young men, and raising them taught me what my brother had known all along, that being a parent is the most important work anyone can do." "Margaret, when I saw your ex-wife mocking you for being devoted to your daughters, I saw every person who'd ever looked down on my brother for struggling. I couldn't stay silent. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Your brother was lucky to have you, and your daughters are lucky to have you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Margaret said, "I have a proposition for you. My company has a foundation. We provide educational grants and support programs for families. I'd like to set up a trust fund for Emma, Lily, and Sophie for their college education." I started to protest. "Margaret, I can't accept that. It's too much." "It's not charity, Robert. It's an investment in 3 bright young girls who deserve every opportunity. Please, let me do this. It would honor my brother's memory." The sincerity in her eyes made it impossible to refuse. "They'll write you thank you notes," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I'd expect nothing less. That autumn, Margaret became more than a friend. We fell in love slowly, carefully, both of us aware of the precious cargo we carried, my daughters' hearts, and our own carefully guarded ones. She understood that the girls came first, and she never tried to replace their mother. Instead, she became something different. A mentor, a friend, someone who showed them what strong, kind women could be. One evening, almost a year after the reunion, Margaret and I took the girls to an upscale restaurant to celebrate. Emma's good report card. We were all dressed nicely. The girls in new dresses Margaret had bought them, discussing what to order, when I noticed Jennifer and Gregory across the room. They noticed us too. I watched Jennifer's expression change as she took in Margaret, clearly recognizing her from the reunion. Then she saw the girls, healthy and happy and loved, and something flickered in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or just surprise that we'd all turned out fine without her. Emma noticed me looking. "Who's that, Daddy?" "Nobody important, sweetheart." Margaret reached across the table and took my hand. "Just some people from a long time ago? We didn't approach them and they didn't approach us." There was nothing left to say. Jennifer had made her choices and I'd made mine. Looking at my 3 daughters, at the woman I loved who loved them just as fiercely, I knew which of us had chosen wisely. Later that year, Margaret and I were married in a small ceremony at the same park where we'd fed ducks that first Sunday. Emma, Lily, and Sophie served as flower girls, beaming in their matching dresses. As I watched Margaret promise to love and support not just me but our daughters, I thought about the reunion, about how one moment of cruelty had led to this moment of joy. Life has a way of surprising you. The love I thought I'd lost forever had returned in a form I never expected. Margaret didn't just accept my circumstances, she embraced them. She showed my daughters that families come in all forms, that love is about choice and commitment, not biology. Now, when people ask about my life, I don't talk about struggle or sacrifice. I talk about 3 remarkable young women growing up strong and confident. I talk about meaningful work that shapes young minds. I talk about a partner who sees me clearly and loves what she sees. I talk about being grateful for every moment, even the difficult ones that led me here. The other day, Sophie asked me about her birth mother. I told her the truth, that sometimes people aren't ready to be parents, and that's okay. That what matters is being surrounded by people who love you and will never leave. She thought about that for a moment, then hugged me tight and ran off to play. That's all any of us can do, really. Show up, love deeply, build something beautiful from whatever circumstances we're given. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, someone sees us struggling and chooses to walk beside us, making the journey less lonely. Margaret often says I saved her as much as she saved me. That before she met us, she was successful but lonely, accomplished but wondering what it all meant. The girls gave her purpose. Love gave her joy. I think we saved each other. And every day we choose to keep saving each other. Keep showing up. Keep building this unexpected, beautiful life together. That's the thing about kindness. It multiplies. Margaret's courage at that reunion changed everything. It reminded me that I was worthy of respect and love. It showed my daughters that good people exist, that someone will always stand up for what's right. And it brought all of us together into something none of us had known we were missing. 5 years ago, I thought my life was falling apart. Now I know it was just falling into place.